The meeting will be. Would you like me to repeat that?
Yes, please.
Okay, City of Olivet Public Hearing Notice. Board of Adjustment of the City of Olivet, Missouri will hold a public hearing on Thursday, July 14th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Central Time. The meeting will be conducted in person and virtually via Zoom. Meeting ID 858-3564-9535. The link will be available at olivetmo.com/agenda center. The meeting is regarding the following petition. The petitioners are Julian and Raphael Thurmedson. Sorry about that. I apologize. Property address is 809 Newcastle Drive. Property owner is Julian and Raphael Thurmedson. Am I close? I have a tough last name, so I understand. The zoning is a SR single family residential district. The appeal request is rear yard setback variance. The petitioner seeks a variance of 5.3 feet from the rear west lot line to construct a covered deck 21.1 feet from the rear lot line. The required rear yard setback for this lot is 25.4 feet. The code section is section 400.260. Yard and setback requirements, subsection C, rear yard setback. Rear yard setback, each interior lot shall provide a minimum rear yard setback of 20% of the lot depth. No lot shall provide a rear yard setback less than 20 feet. Carlos, do I need to continue with everything? Good, go.
Next step would be to open the public hearing, which I believe we're already in. And then swear in Ms. Doty. She will be the presenter for tonight.
So, in an open meeting then?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Do we need to swear in Dawn?
Yes. So I'll go ahead, Ms. Doty. Yeah, you wanna raise your
Swearing.
hand? Do you swear that the evidence that you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
I do. We are ready. So sorry for the long pause there. Greetings. We have in front of us, as Carlos said, 809 Newcastle Drive. As we weigh do I need to go through the error and interpret purpose, or should I go through the details of the?
Go through the details and then get to
Okay.
it.
Sorry, the slides are a bit out of order. So we are at block 5, lot 10 of the Oak Estates subdivision. The existing lot is a non-conforming or legal non-conforming property because it has a greater setback than would be normal, or than the 20%, which is current, our current policy. When the house was built in 2003, it was considered at the time to be in line with the 200 feet. And I'm so sorry, I'm blanking on me. I have bills here. It is also the width of the property is legal non-conforming because it is less than 150 feet across. The average feet or average width that we came up with is 126.9 feet.
That was depth, right?
Or sorry, yeah.
Depth,
Yes,
okay.
thank
Good.
you very much. And so, which makes 20% the new, which is the new criteria, a depth of, or setback of 25.4 feet. The 20% rule was to kind of resolve, those kind of questions where you had properties that were set further forward than others, and how do you define the setbacks in each place? Since this property was built before that, it would still be legal, non-conforming, but it would not be approved like if you were to rebuild the same exact house. Also, the patio was originally meant to be concrete. So a concrete patio does not count against your accessory structure or your, or I guess it can be built all the way to the property line, but it's still counted against your impervious surface. Okay. That out of the way. And so during construction in 2003, they actually decided that they were going to change it to a wooden structure patio. It was noted and inspected. However, it was not noted that it would encroach upon that, or, I guess 3 extra feet onto that property setback. Not knowing that and having purchased it as it was, they really couldn't do anything about it. Currently, they didn't have any interest in tearing it down and redoing it. What they are proposing currently is a covered structure, a covered porch, which is a more significant structure. Although not necessarily, changing in characteristic or appearance of the house, or changing from the general local aesthetic. And Carlos had some really good aerials from Google Earth there. So it shows you the approximate look of the current backyard. With the proposed patio, it is, deck. It is a wooden structure with a roof, but open, and it extends another foot further into the setback. So it is, it would not resolve their setback issue or encroachment issue. It would actually, I guess you'd say, make it worse. They would further encroach upon their neighboring property. However, it is somewhat, I don't want to say negligible. It's approximately 5 feet over the required rear yard setback. And what you would be looking at here is if they have a reason for that to be, or their property to be a notable exception. Does it meet the criteria that we know our zoning code is by, and that to not, if there was an error or to so if there's a unique condition that was not necessarily created by the owner, or there's practical difficulties, and it would not reasonably affect the neighboring property, if you would want to grant.
What does it want, the current structure in place that we're talking about, the patio, is that 2 feet encroachment or 3 feet?
The total encroachment would increase to 5 feet
From
from the neighboring property. I'm sorry, I
4 feet
have
now.
5, I have that it's 5 foot over the required rear yard
So
setback.
you're asking for.
Yes,
Foot
exactly.
more than what you have.
Yes. Excellent. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Would you like to come up?
What are there any
Well-
unique conditions?
Any unique conditions? The topography, as far as the property goes, there aren't any special or unique things that would like the width of the lot, it's it's not necessarily a practical, or sorry, a unique condition.
That result in practical difficulties. What's the city position on that?
On the practical
Mhm.
difficulties, I don't know that we have,
I think in the staff report, it's kind of noted that really is the question at hand in there, because it is a legal lot of record,
Right.
but it's non-conforming. It doesn't
Right.
have the necessary depth, and that's what Mr. Doty was noting. If this was a typical lot, it would be 150 feet deep. In this case, it
Right.
averages 126 feet. But its neighboring properties are somewhat similar. What could be discussed, and it's noted in the petitioner's paperwork in there, is that when this house was built, which was way prior, before their purchase, when this house was built, it was the front yard setback was based on an old zoning ordinance that we had adopted in 1985, where you would average the lots on each side and their setback, and that's what you would get in there. We got rid of that because what that was doing, the goal of the average was to keep the houses consistent along the street. But each time a house moved back, the houses started moving, the new tear downs started moving further and further back. And that was somewhat adverse to the goal of the SR district. So we changed that ordinance to adopt the required setback that was initially noted in the subdivision or record. So when this house was built, it was required to be built 43 feet from the street right of way. If this house was being rebuilt, they could build 40 feet from the street right of way. So the old code was kind of push this house further back, so they even got a smaller backyard. But there was no adjustment to the rear yards calculations on how that was done. Now, I would argue that the rear yard calculations, it's based on a percentage, so it takes into account proportions. So the deeper lot you have, the bigger setback you're going to provide. And for a smaller, shallower lot, it's going to provide less of a setback. But the overall community goal is to make sure that nobody builds 20 feet closer, to their backyards, especially a three-dimensional structure. You can build your pools, you can put different things out there, but not at the size of a house or a covered patio. So again, I think this would be for the Madisons. We'll talk about this with one of the things was that they lost 3 feet based on how this house was designed in there, and it would be up to the board to determine whether that was a practical difficulty, but it was a requirement by code at the time. I mean, and such. And then you have your 3 other aspects about would it unreasonably affect adjacent properties. It's observe the spirit of the zoning ordinance and then satisfy the additional variance criteria. And that is, is it consistent with does it impact the comprehensive plan? Does it impact traffic, safety, and general welfare? And I think when you look at these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's really number 2. And these are ands. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's really number 2. Where again, the Madisons will address that and whether the board finds that there is a difficulty in there. Now they are increasing the depth of the deck, that additional foot in there, whether that's significant or not. That's something that the board needs to deliberate.
What is the depth of the lot?
The depth of the lot, we averaged it as 126 feet. I believe it's 124 feet on the north side and 129 feet on the south side. So it's somewhat diagonal.
So this original deck, it was, let's say, overlooked, that it was built 4 feet over the setback
Correct. So
already.
prior to the Madison's purchase, the original house must, the best I can tell on this is that, well, for a fact, I know that there was a patio that was illustrated in the plan set.
Mhm.
And that we have records that somewhere along the way, the developer applied to change that patio into a deck.
Mhm.
Now, there isn't any record of how deep that original patio, or I'm assuming this is the original deck, in there was supposed to be. Now, if it was a patio, again, it wouldn't be subject to the 20% restriction on depth, but a deck would be. So making an assumption that a couple of scenarios. One, the inspector never picked up that there should have been a difference in calculations between the deck when it switched over. Two, it was never, nobody picked it up, or three, it was built deliberately that way,
So whatever. So whatever. Ended up being, it currently is over
that is
the
correct.
setback
Mhm.
as it is now. And so you are asking to extend it 1 foot from there. So now instead of 4 feet over the
Correct.
setback, it's now 5 feet.
Well, it's proposed to be
still-
5.
But still, it's within the 20-foot minimum by a hair, right? Like by
Yes.
less than, but, okay, by a hair, but, okay.
Carlos, I just
Oh,
want
yeah.
one clarification question. And that was that 20% rear yard setback in place when the original house was built?
Correct. To the best of my knowledge, we haven't had any amendments on the rear yard setbacks.
Okay, I just.
So
wanted to
that
clarify.
20-foot minimum is part of the original zoning code that we kind of operate under right now. It was adopted in 1985, and to the best of my knowledge, that original 20% of the depth and no less than 20 feet has always been part of the city's policy.
Speak.
Well, let's hope, let me see if there's any questions, and then it's been pretty informative. I'm sorry, Mr. Demetriou, but just to make sure, in case something. Any other questions on that, or with that?
No, I think that's.
Well, if it's a staff, if
us.
not, if you're ready for Mr. and Mrs. Madsen, then I need to swear him in. That's just so we're, anything else?
Anything else from the board with respect to Carlo? Olivet's position?
And I
Does
think-
David's muted, so let's just verify with David in case he was talking.
No, I'm good. Thanks for checking.
One of the things that I think Don and I have controls of the slide, so I'm throwing it off Don, so I apologize. But she was going to enter some of the findings. And again, findings are known facts, that there's no, that's not the way it is. It is. They're not assumptions. These are known facts. And she's going to just kind of note those for the record.
Okay, so zone SR, single family residential, known as Block 5, Lot 10 of the Oak Estates subdivision. Home was built in 2003. Existing home set back 3 feet further from the front building line. Addendum to convert patio to deck during home construction. Current owner purchased in September 2013. Legal lot of record, lot considered legal non-conforming. Existing deck is legal non-conforming. Existing deck will be fully removed. Proposed deck is 1 foot longer than existing deck. Proposed deck is enclosed.
And then lastly are the items for the record. And
Okay.
you have copies of these in your packets.
Do I need to read these out?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Within your packets, you'll find the building permit application dated May 11th, along with the current plan set titled Madsen 809 Newcastle Drive and dated March 13th, 2022. Initial denial letter via email dated June 23rd, 2002. Board of Adjustment application received June 23rd, 2002, including attachments. Public hearing notice, affidavit of publication, posting and list of addresses of properties within 185 feet notified. Staff report dated July 14th, 2022, including attachments, PowerPoint presentation, City of Olivet Code of Ordinances, including Chapter 400 zoning regulations and zoning map of the City of Olivet.
I apologize, but I do have a quick question for you, Carlos or Dawn, either one. And if you could bring up the slide that had the aerial view with the adjacent neighbors. When I was looking at this, it looked like the home to the south, I believe it's correct, the home to the south, has this like a very similar addition with a kind of a covered deck. And so was curious if that was within the proper building lines, as well.
Without looking or reviewing the survey, it is a permit structure, familiar with the property. But I don't know the actual numbers. Remember, as the properties here, the road kind of, they're not perfect rectangles or squares.
Right.
So it is possible that the calculation would have presented that they meet the 20%, the depth. I'm not aware, and no different than this one, because one of the first things we tried to see, and of course, the Madsons were not the original owners, was what were they before the board before, was this already granted in there? We didn't find any records on this side of Newcastle regarding any variances or waivers to the new homes.
And then I was curious about the same situation about the house that's, to the left of their property, some of those, not that house, go further to the left. No, not, I'm sorry, across the fence, basically,
Okay,
right up there.
this is one single parcel that runs all the way back. They pretty much are about the backyard of one parcel.
So it seems like that north side of that house that's up there looks like it's pretty close to that 20%.
Correct, but their rear yard, that's actually their side yard. Their rear yard is actually back here.
Oh. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No,
Oh, you
that's it.
zoomed in.
Carlos,
Thank
is there any significance to it being closed in with a roof?
Well,
We've had a discussion before. of
it
stuff.
is, and it's one of the discussions we had with them that, you're going from what would have been a two-dimensional structure. Now, a deck is a three-dimensional structure. A patio is two-dimensional, but this deck, in some portions it's about 3 to 4 feet in height because it's got railings. So it does have some verticalness in there, but now you're fully enclosing it and putting a roof. And yes, and I think that the Madsons will address that that was something that I had requested or we had discussed, that they make clear with the neighbors that this is, this has some volume to it, and I'm confident that they did. So
Is this considered an addition to a house?
it would be, yes, because it has a roof over it, well, even a deck, because there is height to a deck. It is subject to the same setbacks as the house is, and that's why this is before. Again, if this was a patio, meaning that it would be a two-dimensional, they could run this almost all the way up to the property line. In that, because we treat that differently, but in this case, it's considered as part of the house. That address, okay?
Questions from the board? Now we can move on to the petitioner. We need to swear you in. Okay.
Right. Do you swear that the evidence that you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And Mr. Tomanson, if you can just note your name again and address.
Sorry, Raphael Tomanson, 809 Newcastle Drive. My wife's here, but she'd prefer if I do the presentation. She'll stand up. You also swear to tell the truth?
I also swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
So help me God.
The only thing I would say, and I hate to do it just on technicality, but I think we actually closed on the house in July of 2013 and not September. I don't know why the recording date is different. It doesn't change anything. It's 10 years after the house was built, but we're trying to get details here. So then I don't know which ones to pay attention to.
Thank you.
Before I get into detail, I guess I'll just say, so we bought the house in 2013. We've had a porch there, and then we decided we thought it'd be nice to make a screen porch. Originally, we were going to use the same size. That turned out to be expensive. So actually, we're shrinking it a little bit on the width of the porch, but talking to both our neighbors who you noted had a very similar structure. In fact, this is the exact same company, and it's on the recommendation of the neighbor, all of whom know that we're doing this stuff. Because I told our neighbors, I don't want to cause neighbor problems. Like, if you don't want us to do it, it's not worth a fight with my neighbors to try to do something. So talking to both our neighbors and the designers, they said, we really had a little too short of a porch. If you add 2 feet, it'll feel good. And so we ended up with a 14 by 15 that is in the proposal. And only when we filed the stuff did we learn, oh, actually that house, that even the existing porch is apparently not within the rules. So what we're asking for, and the way I guess the penalty is because we have a bigger front yard, and the 20% that gets penalized in the backyard, but we would be within 20 feet. And what I wanted to point out is, it is true, it's 20.1 feet. So you could say it's a whisker. It is also only for a whisker of a moment because it's hard to see, but that back line actually angles. So by the other corner of the porch, it's going to be several feet more. I don't know the exact number, but when Carlos came and helped measure it, it was really clear that like the exact place where this corner was really affects whether it's 20 feet or not. So we're clean on the 20 feet with our proposal. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, I think they set the setback, I'm not sure what we could, I guess if I hope you say yes. If you say no, I'd also like clarity, like what we can change or not change for, because it seems like we can't even replace our current porch.
I'll also say, if you go back to the picture you had, one of the aerial pictures that showed our neighbor's structure, you can actually see the diagonal line. Yeah, okay. So look at our line. See how that is actually diagonal? See how it kind of,
Fence,
the
just trying
fence
to look
goes
at
out. So what I'm
fence.
saying is, in
That
that,
one, yeah.
it's Florida, you can illustrate his point where it looks like it's only 20 feet in that one section, but once you go further, that's just that one edge, and then every part of the other rest of the deck would be further back. But that makes sense because the fence, the line goes out.
And I guess I would just again say, but I think I said it. We asked each of the neighbors if they had a problem with it and to let us know, and that we just would give up any, we wouldn't even try to push it if they had any concern at all.
No one has
And no
any
one had any
objection. It's
objections.
1 foot more than what we currently have. We didn't even know it. As they mentioned, when we went and bought the house, we had no idea that this was even an issue. So we just wanted to make what we had nicer. And so now I kind of fear that this whole process has taught us that, like, not only like we might not get it nicer at all, but yeah, basically we just wanted to take what we have and what we bought in good faith and make it a little nicer.
I can ask them a question, if that's
Mhm.
okay. If you can help us out and maybe kind of go through, there was that list of things that, for us to approve it.
We can help you out with
If you can kind of go through and talk about the unique conditions, the hardship, things like that. From your point of view,
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
that would be
Absolutely.
very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was in the application, but I appreciate the chance to be able to go through that. So for the hardships, I think that the hardships, if we had to rebuild it, I mean, at some point, the deck is in so shape and really needs to be rebuilt. So to have to build a new deck that would even conform to the 25 feet, we would be left with a very skinny deck. I don't even know that we would be able to practically eat on it or do some of the stuff that we would normally do on that deck. And so it would substantially change the use that we would be able to have of the deck. I'm not even talking the cover, I'm just talking the current size of the deck itself. In terms of, I mean, that's the main thing is, like, if we have to build a small thing, then it's just, it changes it from a place you can eat or a place you can kind of sit and look at people to kind of just something where you can put a chair to the back of the house and look out. So I think it substantially changes the potential uses.
And the
that we
resale
would have.
value, really. I mean, I think it substantially changes that footprint of the house. And I would say that's definitely more than just a mere inconvenience to say, we bought this house in good faith and this is what we understood the back deck to be.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would not call that a mere inconvenience. I would say that is a very practical difficulty of, we had not been maintaining our existing deck for years, knowing that at some point we were going to have this dream of building our beloved's, porch with a cover. And so by all accounts, our existing structure is falling apart and it does need to be replaced. And so this is where this leaves us. And so I would call that definitely a practical difficulty versus just a mere inconvenience.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I should have stepped back. I mean, part of how we started this is we saw our back deck was kind of falling apart. We decided to try to do a new one. And then we're like, well, as long as we're doing it at the same time, our neighbors had gotten about 9 years while we were still in the house, but sometime while we were still there, they added that add-on. They really loved it. They suggested the same people to us and we thought it was a good idea. But it really did start from the porch itself needing to be, it's rotting a little bit. It needs some-
I would say number 3, the variance would not unreasonably affect adjacent properties. It certainly would not affect, I mean, it's certainly not negatively. It would make the house look a lot nicer.
Yeah, some of them actually commented.
Yeah, I mean, people are always telling us how nice our neighbor's back porch is. I definitely think it adds.
I think the neighbors in the north said, oh, no, I think it'll look nice.
Yeah. I don't know offhand what number 4 is.
Sorry, I have it here. So it's, what characteristics of the property would necessitate it? I mean, I think it's both the current footprint and the fact that the house is pushed back those 3 extra feet from what would be current code.
I think it definitely observes the spirit of the zoning ordinance because we are talking about a foot versus what we currently have, which is like that much. And what we currently have, if you went and saw our backyard, you would never in a million years say, oh, wow, that structure is so close to the backyard. I mean, it's 20 feet from our back line. So I definitely would say it's in the spirit of the zoning ordinance. There's no traffic implications. There's no public safety and welfare implications at all. It's just our backyard. And then if you can remind me what subsection 400.16.
I think we were mostly focused on the second.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, if you would like me to speak to number 5, if I can find that.
No, and that's regarding that you're not impeding light on your neighbors, you know, the natural light. Unreasonably increasing congestion, you know, that's in the backyard. Increasing public danger, or fire safety type of issues.
Kind of catch-alls, but I think.
Yeah.
I don't think it's applies to this. I mean, I think you're okay. I think.
Yeah, I don't think it will affect, I don't think it will affect them at all. Except for the fact that, as Raphael mentioned, they did say they think it's gonna be really pretty.
Any questions?
If they were to tear down this deck, they would have to conform, even if they were to rebuild the deck, it would have to go back. It would, to be normally approved, it would have to go back to the 20% setback, which would be,
Correct. And that was one of the conversations we had with them. You know,
10 feet wide, right?
correct.
Which, okay. Can we ask questions?
Yeah.
No, okay, so just so I understand the house, the back of your house, this jutting out portion, that's where the door is? Is that why the deck is
Yeah, the deck
there
is there and there's
versus
a door to the
off
house.
to one
yes.
side or the other, are those windows? Opposed
There's,
to like putting the
um,
deck off to the left or the
so-
right where it's set back further?
Where that deck is with the circle, where the
Yeah.
proposal is. That width is basically a set of French doors and a little bit of wall
Okay,
in there, and it's elevated, so. This is the first I knew that actually, right now, that it was gonna be a patio, but I don't know how they would have done a patio, because it's
well, I could.
substantially above the ground.
You couldn't put that porch to the one side or the other because those are windows.
Correct,
Right.
that's correct.
Correct.
You could not do it on either. You could not, because the whole area on both sides, and the left side is all window.
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
then, yeah, on the right side, it's a window and then it goes into more windows, which is my sink. like,
Yeah.
sink
Okay,
here.
so
So there's
that is the
nowhere
only
else.
practical place
I
to put
understand
that.
the question,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, there's
I will
no,
also say. I don't know if this is a factor, but. When kind of deciding the dimensions, one thing that kind of determined the width of the deck. Is they said it really should line up to that bit that juts out already. So that bit that's jutting out, that currently juts out from our house and is inside the house. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
no,
I'm
I'm just thinking
And
more of
so,
the
huh?
depth, so the width is fine, I'm just
Yeah,
thinking
okay.
of the.
Yeah, no,
the
I
depth.
understand.
I understand you want the width to match up with the corners.
So that's what they suggested, just to make sure it doesn't
Sure.
become a hideous, yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah.
You guys mentioned or touched on this, and it's the height difference between, let's say, the door, or the floor of the existing deck
Yeah.
versus the ground. What is that height difference?
I don't know, but I wish I could tell you, and I should know the answer. What I will tell you is that on the north edge, it's fairly of where that deck would be, it'll probably be 4 steps. On the
Okay.
south edge, it is almost a whole story. So it's underneath that deck right now, it's not just a slope towards the back, but it's also a slope in the side. So it's a very uneven underneath that.
Because if you can imagine all the backyards in Newcastle, they slope down towards the,
Towards this,
There's a
sewer
drain
thing.
inlet
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
That explains why they didn't go with the patio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I can't imagine how they could have built
this is the
that.
first I learned that they even
And,
thought about it.
Try to level that out could have been caused some more drainage issues, as well. So,
Any other questions?
So you just felt the 1 extra foot versus where the deck is now would just make it more
So
usable.
I guess. Yeah, we were advised by numerous people, both by the company, who I don't think is trying to just upsell us, but maybe is. And by our neighbors who had it like a foot or 2 shorter than what they had. And Jamie Fingerman lives just to the south and she's like, get those extra 2 feet, you'll really miss it. So,
Like, if I could go back and do it again, I wish I could have added
So-
like just one little foot.
I mean. If it's all the difference to you, I would rather have my porch and give up that 1 extra foot. If it's not a difference to you, we asked our neighbor, I would prefer to have that extra foot of inside space, but. The bigger make or break to me is being able to rebuild that deck and have the roof, that to me is a bigger thing, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's substantially or even noticeably to anyone. Hurts anyone else to get us to that extra foot, but if you feel differently, I want to be reasonable, I want to work things out, so, And it's still, again, I just want to emphasize, it's still within the 20 feet.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Carlos, do we have any questions in the audience?
I don't see anybody online and just verify that. I'll be on Councilman call. So no, sir.
Did we receive any written communication from any neighbors?
No, sir. There was none attached on the, I know you
No,
noted it on, okay. I just want to make sure I didn't.
Larry, Kirsty, thank you, I'm spaced out on it. Larry suggested that we didn't have to go through and get the thing we asked if we should, so, but if he would like us to come back, we can. get the
Yeah,
thing.
sorry, what he's saying is that
Sorry.
our neighbors are all totally 100% fine. with it. And we were wondering if we need to like get them to write something down that says, oh, we're totally 100% fine with this. Larry suggested that we did not need to do that, that the fact that they did not show up today indicates that they have no.
But if you would like us to run out, I won't do it in the next 15 minutes, but if you need us for another meeting. We did explicitly ask the neighbors, we haven't just been.
And we know they
big
have all
shy.
gotten, I mean, they've all gotten this. So
No,
they-
but we
they've had a lot of
also,
discussion.
I asked, even before we submitted the application, I
We talked
asked, because I don't want to be bad neighbors to people. It's not with the fights.
I think we need more conservative about negative.
Yeah,
Yeah, we didn't receive,
Yeah,
there's no.
no,
negative.
no,
That's how we got that.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Not, I guess we can close the public
Thank you.
hearing and begin deliberations.
Thank you.
Do we stick around?
Yes.
Okay.
What do you think?
existing deck is already over the setback. And the new proposal being just 1 foot more is still within the 20-foot minimum.
I think too, if we kind of walk through, those requirements
Yeah.
that we have to do. And we look at, this property having a unique conditions. I do think the fact that we do have, it's
It's a narrow,
it's less than the 150. We do have some variance in terms of depths from one side to the other. And I do think it was kind of caught between different those setbacks, or especially with that front yard requirement that pushed it 3 feet back further, which makes their house. So I think that almost, applies to other exceptional circumstances, something that was different that, if it was built today, would it be 3 feet, back? I doubt it.
right,
And
right.
so it's kind of like you don't necessarily want to penalize them for being in compliance before,
And it's not, the deck sounds like it has to come down and then you are
yeah,
in a predicament if it's a deck or a porch.
right. The practical difficulties, I think is, it's a tough one. I mean, I think it does result in practical difficulties for reasonable use of the backyard. I think, not having a deck there, and having a patio definitely changes it. And the fact that they didn't know about this before and it definitely changes, their use of that space.
And knowing it's on such a hill in two
Right.
directions,
Right.
something needs to be elevated to be there. You can't have a patio practically.
David, do you have any comments?
No, I've been listening and I'm in agreement with with you guys. I think the comments are well reasoned, or justifications are well reasoned, and I do think that we've checked off the boxes for the practical difficulties and other qualifications for us to move ahead.
I will just add the fact that lost where my train of thought. I wanted to add something, but give me a second. Well,
If you think of it. just-
yes, so,
Again. There's no other questions or comments? I guess we're ready for a reading of the motion and a vote. We'll read the motion.
yes, I will. Thank you very much. Oh, you're a lifesaver. I'd like to propose a motion to grant a variance to permit a rear yard setback of 20.1 feet or a 14-foot depth enclosed deck at the property addressed at 809 Newcastle Drive as illustrated in the plans dated March 13th, 2022, as prepared by California Custom Decks.
Second the motion?
Secretary, would you read the roll call for the votes?
Carlos, actually.
Carlos
will do
says
that.
I'm sorry.
Board Member Zobel,
Yes.
Board Member Weber,
Yes.
Board Member Dragell,
Approved, or yes.
and Chairman.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously 4-0, so the area variance is granted as requested.
Or your deck. Or your whatever. Carlos, we have some time.
Yeah, well, one thing that, so the next step in the process is now the review of that permit application. And I'll contact the custom decks and just kind of let them know. And there, like everything else, we are shorthanded, but I'll see what we could try to do to expedite. I'm not sure where you are in their schedule yet. So. Okay, so we'll coordinate and go through that. too. Mhm. Thank you.
You can stay for the updates and send you all that if you want. It's up to you,
No, you don't have to.
I understand.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you.
Carlos, you might go ahead and give us some updates.
Okay, so Don noted a couple of city events that are going on in the staff reports. The firemen are hosting the Fill the Boot at Price and Olive on July 29th, August 5th, and August 19th, between 11 and 1 p.m. And the reason that they're separate dates is that means each group, because I believe we have 3 different shifts, have an opportunity to do for the collections. I believe the collection for muscular dystrophy. Okay. Starry Nights Party at Worson Park, August 6th from 8 to 10 p.m. There will be an opportunity to look under the stars and telescopes provided. And then Coffee in the Mayor with the Mayor is Wednesday, August 10th at 8:45. And I believe that is a discussion with a local leader with the Defamation League that will be talking about some equity issues and all that. And then if you are part of a subdivision or so, Olivet Night Out, which is a traditional yearly event in which council members, police and fire, and some city staff officials visit different neighborhoods, and that's scheduled for August 31st. I don't have any updates on the COVID-19 info or such. We're operating currently in a normal capacity. So that's where we're at this time. So some of the developments, starting on the east side at 270, you're seeing construction already going on the Olivet Gateway, which is Olive Crossing, and starting to see that third dimension being built. They're putting up the parking garage. That is for the 181 unit apartment complex.
Apartment complex on the right then?
That is correct, between the garage and Price. And they're starting to do the framing on that first level, and that's a 5-story structure. And the city's Planning and Community Design Commission approved one of the retail buildings that will be closer to the ramps. In there, it's a 4-tenant building with 2 restaurants on either side. At this point, we don't know any of the occupants yet, but that's what is planned for that site. The developer has 2 additional outlots on the Olive side, and they're still engaging with the hopes of trying to combine those 2 lots and put a grocer, a small foot grocer. So that process has not been given up. And if that doesn't work, it would be reverted to 2 smaller retail buildings on either end. There will also be a hotel component and a office building component where the old Office Max portion was, closer to the interstate. Those haven't started as of yet. And so across the street from that and behind Chevy's is another apartment complex that was approved by the city. It's a 208 unit building that's being developed by the Opus Group. They purchased 23 single family homes. They were all purchased by market. So they had at several times tried to coordinate to get redeveloped in there. And then this time there were, market conditions were really good and they were successful. And I think they got a really good developer. We're looking forward to them investing in our city. And so that area and the homes have been raised, and we anticipate construction probably starting late August, early September for that. I'm going to jump to the other side of the interstate. Just a lot of people are asking, what's going on the U City side. So you can see the Costco development in Michelle and moving quickly. I think Costco wants to open by November in there. Now we did see a lot of traditional tenants that we lost in 2 of those strip malls that they had on either side. They are redeveloping it into more modern retail, so there will be a little bit bigger boxes and all that. And there's a lot of the characters. I mean, using Bob's Seafood, Nobu's, and Palm Island, and the full restaurant in there. It is sad, but I think too, they're trying to regenerate some interest and investment in the city, and a lot of those spaces were old, and then they're rented. So it's hard to get reinvestment into those sites, and unfortunately, it usually requires some type of major shake to do what they're going through in there. I think that's good. I think And we looked for opportunities to host Costco and all of that. But we just didn't have a site big enough, for something like that. But I'm happy because it's very close for our residents, but they're dealing with all the traffic and all that issue. Now, as all this development and traffic on Olive, we recognize that we're doing a traffic management plan in place that we've been implementing since the adoption of our comprehensive plan, even going that far back to recognize, U City and Creveport are going to be doing things that impact Olive just as much as we are in terms of that traffic volume. And our goal is being able to move that volume more efficiently. And doing so, over the past 20 years, we've acquired about 8 cross-access easements. We've closed about 12 different aprons, like consolidating them, like in this case, the Firestone consolidated 3 different aprons on Olive. So we're trying to make those type of improvements so traffic flows better. And then working with MoDOT to improve the signalizations on those, because traffic, even if we said we're not going to do anything, our neighbors are going to be doing things. So that, so our sphere of influence is really in making sure that our developments, that we take advantage of our developments to ensure that they move traffic better. And we know we have some conflict points like at Olive Center and the post office, Apple Tree Mobile, and the Alzheimer's building across the street and all of that executive. But we do have plans in place that if improvements or changes go on, how to make those, consolidate those or move traffic more efficiently on those things. So we're cognizant of that. As you start coming back from 170 into Olive, the art gallery that is there in the 9300 block, they acquired the little house building that was next door. It used to be a hair salon or spa. They're tearing that down and expanding in their gallery space in there. He's been a long-time business resident and is investing significantly in expanding his business here. And there, it's a nice building that they're doing.
Very unique and
Yes.
modern. It'll be interesting.
Then as you come closer here to Dealman, the new Firestone development that opened about last month, they have the ribbon cutting tomorrow. They have pretty much the improvements at the corner are complete. There's still some additional finishes that they need to do, and there will be a flag pole that would be installed in there because that reflects our veterans niche or pocket park. And it's been exciting to see how it's been used. There's a lot of people that are sitting down in there, and maybe because I like the old park because it was very shady with the tree canopies and all that. But now that it's open, it's been interesting to see the amount of people that are sitting down there and taking advantage of some of those spaces. There is a rock waterfall that it's a lower level as opposed to the pond that they had before. Correct. Well, there's also the reason that the sidewalk is still closed at the corner. There's a gas line that they're waiting for Spire to complete before they can turn that on and then finish up. And that includes putting up the flagpole. So that should be coming soon. Good. And I hope it's appealing. I think it's a nice building, and the old garage was a big eyesore, but again, this was more of a market driven development, and then the city taking advantage because we had that veterans feature in there and having that re-improved, and the Firestone did that or contributed to that on the city's behalf. So, here across the street, I believe it's 8 lots here on Dealman have been purchased and they're being consolidated, and they're building a 35 unit townhomes development in here, similar to Castlegate Villas. They'll go across the street here. So you can see that a lot of the houses are being stripped of the asbestos siding and getting ready for demolition. And as you go further down Olive, the Oliver, which is a 151 unit residential complex that opened July 1. That used to be our former city hall. facilities, that they have occupancy, in there. It was impressive. They hit, I guess it was close to 70% occupancy when they opened. They didn't anticipate to hit that amount until 6 months in.
Wow.
And their absorption rate for the rents was much higher than what they had anticipated. So it does two things. One is that, again, we're city in demand, and a very attractive place to be in. So I don't know specifically. I've heard anything like for an efficiency about 1,200 to 1,400 per month, and they have one,
Oh,
two.
no, that's an efficiency.
They have a handful of 3 bedrooms, not many, and then 2, and then probably about 50 to 60% is efficiency in 1 bedroom. And a lot of students' interest.
They had
Maybe.
people move in July 1st.
Wow.
And I saw a bunch of delivery drivers there over lunch today.
Wow.
And I thought that that was a real sign of movement, you know. It looks
One of
cool.
the things to note on it, just so you know, in terms of like the environment that we're in, they were scheduled to open March 1st. But due to supply chain issues, it held them up, and it was about these little electrical parts that they kept getting delayed. And then when, about 20 days prior before opening, they were still short about 40 refrigerators and didn't think that they were going to come in.
Wow.
But they did. And right now the only holdup is the outdoor light fixtures along Olive. Those will be coming in and put in place, but probably not till about October. In there. And that's why if you go down Lindbergh and Olive and those lights aren't set up or working yet, is electrical part supply issues.
Wow.
They put up a sign saying, coming soon, for the lights, coming soon. Like, they must have gotten that many calls.
So across the street from the Oliver is what we call our Plant Haven Commercial Center. And that is operated by it's owned and developed by residents of a family here in Olivet. One of the family members he operated the annual plant tent on the bowling alley next door. They purchased the property with the purpose of putting a permanent facility, plant facility on the eastern end, where they would have year-round plants and seasonal items in there, a little coffee bar and gift shop on there. They're only taking about a quarter of that building. And then they'll have at least 4 or 5 more tenant spaces. They're working hard to get another restaurant, sit-down restaurant to be located in there, and then some smaller type of retail as their mix. And they're moving quickly. They're working on the interior for the plant store, because I think their goal is to open up before the fall season comes into play. So it is a very nice,
Really
attractive
nice.
building. And again, that's a private development. Because you'll have an outdoor planting area. No, they're 1.5 story, yes,
Really?
office, mezzanine type of offices. Bless you, sir.
Excuse me.
So, and then as you go out further west, of course, there's the improvements going on at Old Bonham School. And then the city has a variety of different improvements at all our city parks, but most importantly, construction on our new community center off of Worson Park. And that already is starting, you're starting to see the frame construction going on and in play. That is correct. Mhm. Yeah, they're correct. There are some portions of the park that they're trying to keep open, especially like on the trails and the trail areas. So there are areas that they're trying to coordinate. And then the old community center, which is off of Grandview, I believe that's still in operation too. Yes. Mhm.
Dawn, can you turn on your mic?
My mic's on.
Oh, I'm sorry, not Dawn.
I think again, your mic,
Oh,
Yeah.
the other Dawn.
Yeah, I know. I was-
Councilman Carl couldn't hear you.
Oh,
I
I'm
think-
sorry. I didn't realize there were people.
Ms. Weber had asked if there are vehicle charging stations at the new community center, and yes. Yes, there will be.
Free of charge.
That I don't know the answer. And that.
Yeah.
I guess the worry is gonna remain for quite some time is the impact on traffic,
The what?
the impact on traffic around the Costco, 170 interchange out.
Correct.
That whole section is gonna be a challenge.
It looks like the parking lot will be right up. Whole thing's up on a hill, right? The parking lot will be up there too.
Oh, yes, yes.
I was noticing, I went to the Costco out in town and country. I've only been out there, actually it was one time. And because it's so far back, I didn't notice a lot of in and out traffic. So I'm hoping that maybe that's, because it
Mhm.
feeds out onto Manchester Road. I really didn't notice anything different, because you had to drive so far up and into the parking lot. So maybe we won't see.
No,
So it would be nice, but I'm sure there will be more cars coming with the fact, but being
I think
hopeful,
We'll be very busy. That's,
yeah.
have to live with it.
So, but it is a good point, and it's something that we're, again, the city is cognizant of traffic and all these developments going on, and again, to do nothing is not a good response, because we know our neighbors are active pretty cool with 39 North, and they're doing, the Monsanto campus is getting redeveloped. One of the Monsanto campuses is getting redeveloped, and then the U City development, that's a 50-acre development compared to our 14 acres on Olive Crossing. So it's a sizable development,
Exciting.
There was one project that I don't think you mentioned, and it was a very unique residential house. I believe it's shown on the screen.
I kept seeing him move his head back, and I thought he was trying to show.
Steel's being built,
Yes.
concrete. Yeah, it's looking great, Carl. Mr. Carl.
Yeah, by the way, yeah, you're looking at it from the back. If you see that gray on that wall there, the hill still has to be piled up against that, so.
Wow.
What's gonna happen with the mountain that's on the corner of McKnight and Olive?
The ski slope. The ski slope. No,
Is it ski?
No, that I think when they start grading for the development on the south side, they're supposed to have more retail, residential. I think they showed a hotel and a big box. All that dirt is going to get shifted and realigned.
All right.
I'm not a big fan of how they did that. I'm glad
Yeah,
we
I-
didn't have a wall in Olive, but it's a different, yeah.
Right.
It looks
Different
great.
priorities. Our goal has always been to make the pedestrian feel comfortable along the Olive Boulevard corridor by making it convenient, and then just a nice walk through. And that wall is it's different.
Can I ask Greg a question? Greg,
Mhm.
would you mind? Is it a steel framed house?
Well, it was originally completely steel framed, but due to supply chain issues and rising costs, I left the structural framing in steel because it would have been too hard to change it because I had some spans in there. But
Yeah.
now all the non-structural framing is wood.
Oh, okay. But looks great.
So,
And I think it's gonna definitely meet your, I think your goal of being, able to withstand the weather for sure.
oh, absolutely. Well, and it's kind of stopped right now because there are two pieces of steel on there that are not the right length. So, but as I understand it, we should soon receive the rest of the steel to finish up the structural framing. So,
Very exciting. Looks good.
Anything else?
Thank you. Carlos?
I will just simply say if, number one, it's what's going on in the city, aside from my house, is very exciting. And all the construction that we have, I would suggest that you go listen to the last EDC meeting. The developer for the Oliver came on and I mean, Carlos paid him a year's salary to get the compliments he did, but his compliment or just whole description of working with the city just is great. And I really think you would benefit from listening to it. And, you know, we really seem to have pleased, not that our goal is to please them, but that we work with them and they appreciate it. So I just wanted to point that out. The other two things, I think Carlos, so now my other monitor's gone blank. What was it? Hang on just a second. Not critical, but get back to the right spot. And undo my screensaver. Oh, come on. What were they? They were right on the page. I was looking at them.
Talking about Carlos's report.
Yeah, there was two other things I saw on our website that, there we go.
All of it,
Oh,
night.
there's commission vacancies. I'm sorry. There's commission vacancies on the Parks and Rec and the Housing Authority. If anyone knows anyone interested. And as of June 1, our police are wearing body worn cameras. So I just want to let you know that too.
Very good. Fantastic.
Great.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Zolbo. I know you just came in from overseas. So
Where are you, David?
I think you froze on.
At the right time.
I guess we can.
Thanks, David.
Adjourn our meeting.
Yes, thanks.
Thanks.